want to get along in life. We want the best job, the best partner, or the best house or car. But in our pursuit of a better life, we sometimes feel that we have to run the race against others in the same position. For women especially, this sense of competition can get nasty. With me today is Patricia Walters and Naeemah Hazelle, two dynamic and successful women who will be sharing their tales of the phenomenon that is competitiveness among women. Why are we socialized to see other women as competitors? How can we get ahead without dragging each other into the muck? It's time we had a real conversation. So I have with me today on the couch, Naeemah and Patricia. How are you ladies doing today? You look beautiful, by the way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And it's nice to see my former teacher on the couch.
It's nice to see my former students all grown up. I don't know how it happened because I didn't age at all.
I feel old. I feel like I just made us both look old.
No, we definitely do not look old, I'll tell you that.
And you don't look like her teacher.
We don't feel old either. We don't feel old. But you know what? This right here, this camaraderie, this love, this laughter, this feel-good vibe, catty, backbiting, bitchy, drama queens, these are some of the words that society has used to label women and the interpersonal relationships with women. So today we're going to be discussing the competitiveness among women and where this stems from, why this is perpetuated to become what it has today, and why we can't find more of this, where women simply support each other genuinely, they're happy for each other, even if they have nothing to do with the other person's success. So how have your experiences affected the way that you view relationships with women today?
Well, for me, I grew up with a really confident parent. So my mom was a very confident woman that was just really comfortable in who she was. And she really taught us to be comfortable in who we were. And I remember being a teenager and my mom saying, you're not always going to be the prettiest or the smartest in the room or the funniest, but nobody's going to have your combination of gifts. So I think that's always how I've just kind of come forth. So I don't ever feel like I'm competing with other women. I feel like I have one set of gifts and you have a different set of gifts. And so I really actually even enjoy, I think, doing the opposite of what women expect. So I always really try to encourage women and see women on the street and tell them they look beautiful or compliment women because I think we don't expect it from each other. And, you know, I always kind of like to do the thing that's not expected. So I think I just grew up in a different culture. I think because I grew up with my mom in our home and a lot of sisters, there's like a trailer load of us. We're like a Shabbat song, a trailer load of sisters. I think we all are very different in our own ways, but each of us have our own strengths. So we've learned as sisters not to be competitive with each other as well. So I think it just kind of translates partly. That's part of it, I think, for me.
I think, so I was like a first generation West Indian born child in England. Right? So what I saw was the community of my mom and her sisters and her friends living together in England and supporting each other. So I saw that. So I've always kind of been in that environment of women supporting others because they had to. Because they were in this strange land and they were discriminated against and they were looked down on against and they had each other and so there was that bond. That's not what I've experienced, though, being as I've experienced some of the worst in terms of professional career. Some of the worst, I guess, prejudice and envy and jealousy has been women. So I thought coming to the Caribbean, you know, it would be men because you hear the men are chauvinistic, but actually it's the women.
Yeah.
And I'll give you an example. So I was in the Caribbean and my male my male mentor or manager said to me, "Oh, Pat, there's this position that I think you can do in one of the biggest countries in the Caribbean." Now, I'd only ever worked in the Cayman Islands and St. Kitts, so they were quite small populations. And I was going to an island that had 1.3 million, which is way higher than these. And I was like, "Really? You think I can do it?" And he said, "Yeah, Pat, of course you can do it." I'm like, "No, let me just stay in the, St. Kitts is a small business." He said, "No, I think you can do it, and I'm going to put you forward." Anyway, went to a female HR manager. And she said, "Well, she's only ever worked in small islands. Why would you think that she can do this job?" And said she can do it. She said, "Okay then. We think we'd like somebody from the UK that's been to one of the top 5, because I was an accountant, Ernst and Young, one of the top 5 accounting." She said, "I think we'd be better with that." He said, "No, Pat can do it. She's from the region. She can get the
He
results."
doesn't know what you did where you were. She was confused.
So she said, "Okay then." So she put me through 8 interviews. I had to be interviewed in the UK, in Miami, in Trinidad, telephone kind of interviews. And in those days, it wasn't like the telephone interviews now. Anyway, I got through the interviews. So I said, "Well," she said, "No, you're going to have to do some psychometric testing now."
Wow.
So I'm like, "Okay, you're going to have to do numerical and English." Yeah, 2 psychometric tests. I said, "Okay, just speak to the HR lady here in St. Kitts and, she can oversee me in the room." She said, "No, you're going to come up to Miami so I can check that it's you actually doing the test."
Wow.
So I had to fly to Miami. She put me in a room. I did the psychometric test, and she said, "Okay, then I'll call you with the results in another couple of days." After about a week, I didn't get any results, and I said, I called the office and I said, "It's Pat Walters, blah, 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 I did some psychometric tests. Did anybody get back to you?" Her secretary said, "Didn't anybody get back to you?" I said, "No." She said, "Really?" I said, "No." I said, "Why?" She said, "Because you scored the highest," she said, "that she's ever had in all the years that she's administered the test." I got the job.
You did.
Of course you did.
But look at those
that's
the hoops
But
that
the
she
hoops
made
you
you
had
jump.
to jump through. Yeah.
Absolutely. So why do women do that? Yeah.
You know what? And it's like you guys were saying, talking about your childhoods, because we're all being taught something different
Yes.
from a very young age.
Yes.
Because I've been to countries and been within communities where women are taught to go after what they want, to be ambitious, and that it's okay to stomp on whoever you need to get to the top. And other women are being taught, you don't do that. You help other women up. So it's just these different lessons that we're being taught, and we're being taught through examples. You saw a very strong, confident woman. You saw community. I saw a little bit of both, but I also saw the combative, like I saw the real competition. Things as simple as if a lady puts up a set of curtains in her home and another one puts up, it's like,
Listen, I couldn't believe it myself.
who has the bigger house, the nicer furniture? I mean, one gets a new car today, the other one wants a new car next week. And it's why, though? Why do we feel this need to be validated?
But also, I think externally, we think we're doing it for sometimes men, but actually it's for us.
Yes,
right?
it is.
So like even with, I was just actually speaking while we were getting ready. For those who don't know, you get ready really cute here. And while we were getting ready, and I've actually stopped, COVID was a real thing for me. I stopped doing lashes. I don't add nails. I grew my own hair. I just had it, And it was actually because my partner said to me, I've never in the world heard a man say that he's interested in your beautiful contour. And I was like, what do you mean? Do you know how much money I spent on my Fenty makeup? Like, Fenty is not a joke. That's like $200 a pop, We're very serious about our makeup. And he said, who are we doing it for? He's like, who do you women do it for? It has to be that you're doing it for each other, because none of us have ever asked for that.
Yes.
And when I thought about it, I was like, I could be saving a lot of money. I just have one man.
It's true. Haven't you
He's
ever
not
seen those
interested.
situations or haven't you ever been in a situation or seen a situation where a woman will ask her boyfriend or husband, well, honey, what do you think of this? Yes. Well, I love it. That looks really nice on you. Even if she wore it 2 weekends ago, he likes to see it on you. So he says yes. And then she goes and she wears something different because she's thinking, what are the other women going to think? Because they saw me in this 2 weekends
That's
ago.
true. That's
so
very true.
you're really not dressing for the man then. We're dressing for society and for each other.
The culture of scarcity, right?
Yeah.
So like there's not enough men for all of us. So we have to be competing for men. Sometimes they're the worst men. Who would be competing for these men? You know, no disrespect out there. I'm not a man hater, but it's true. Let's be honest. Sometimes people are fighting over a terrible man. Like he's not even a good man, but you mean to win because she wants him and you want him, but neither both of you should really put him down. You know,
Even in the workplace, though.
Even in the workplace.
That's
Yeah, it's
a bad
definitely-
premise because
yeah.
it leaves the door open for men to now, for some of those types of men, to prey on those weaknesses and exploit the fact that we are so competitive sometimes.
Yes, but I think it's especially in the workplace too, because I think that we're given this idea because less women get into positions of power and leadership and decision making, that there's less spaces for us. So when we get to the spaces, instead of making room for other women, like you would hope, like Pat would have hoped going to the lady with HR, instead there's idea that there's just one space. So I have to hoard this space for myself. And in turn, I have to act like a man to keep the space, which really, I think is in our heads because as women acting like men doesn't benefit anything in the workplace. We need to bring our womanhood to the workplace. We bring a certain dynamic and a complexity and a color. I like to say women see things in color and men see things in black and white. So I think that we sometimes are almost cutting off our noses to spite our faces because we're competing with each other, but it's not benefiting any of us.
It doesn't benefit us psychologically either.
Yeah, and so competing at the workplace, and I can only speak from my experience, it wasn't, I don't think it was about the men thing. I think, I don't know where that deepness came from. It was like, I'm just want to show that I'm better than her. Whether,
Like, who does she think she is?
yes, whether, you know, my body's a better shape, whether, you know, I've got a better hairstyle, whether I just want to show that I'm better than her. So she might be the boss, but I'm better than her. Or she might be, I don't know where that comes from.
A place of insecurity.
We're going to talk about those insecurities when we come back. It's obvious that a lot of these behavioral patterns stem from some form of insecurity, whether we're aware of it and we want to admit it or not. Because I've found personally that the last thing women want to hear is, you like attention. No woman that I've met likes to hear that. But sometimes it's the truth. You walk into a room and you want that validation. You want your presence seen, you want your presence felt, and in some women's cases, they want their presence heard. This desire to stand out in a crowd.
I think that there is a lot of attention-seeking behavior. And I actually think that it does stem from trauma. I think it comes from not being paid attention to. Like, for example, you know, one of my roles is as a psychologist. I have like many now. But I find that I used to find in counseling, especially when we talk about love languages, big person on love languages, some people have different love languages, and a lot of people's love languages are affirmation and acts of service. They want people to do things for them, to see them. They want to be heard. But often as women, we are not heard unless we're yelling or we're making ourselves heard. I actually find a lot of men would come and say, oh, my wife is always starting fights with me. And I say, well, on a regular day, like, what do you do to make your wife feel affirmed? And they'll say, well, what do you mean? I said, well, she starts a fight with you because after you have a fight, then you pay her attention to make up with her. So you're actually enforcing a behavior where she starts a fight with you just to get your attention. So I think a lot of the times we are craving the attention, and it's not even attention, it's affirmation. We want to be seen, we want to be heard, we want you to see all the things we're doing for you. Yeah. We be doing the most as women. Men don't even notice. It's not even their fault because sometimes they didn't ask for it. It's just us as women, we have an idea of what we think a good woman does. You know,
You're right, though.
a good woman
You're right.
cooks and cleans, and a good woman takes care of her man, and a
I
good
didn't
woman
believe that.
takes. Now we don't. Now, mind you, I didn't say it's true, but I think that we have an idea.
There's
and
a
it's
connection
an idea.
there.
It's a connection.
Yeah.
It's a perception. And as women, it's a perception among women. Like, oh, she's not. Like, I'm divorced, and I remember a woman saying to me once, "Oh, I heard you got divorced because you don't cook." So I was like, "I don't cook."
Oh.
Like, I was with my husband 18 years. Like, what did he eat? Like, did we have KFC? I mean, like, my kids grew up big and strong. What did we eat? But the idea that you would think a whole marriage broke down because a woman didn't cook.
Yes.
And that as another woman, you're actually thriving on it. She's cute. Oh, she looks successful. She had them nice kids, but you know she doesn't cook. Like,
Wow.
I do
So,
cook.
Rob, how do you think stereotypes and what is a stereotype of a good woman plays in that?
I think it plays a great role. I think that we
Yeah.
have a lot of perception, and it goes back to
good woman
what a
is.
good
Yes.
woman is.
Yes.
Yeah, and that I think also feeds into the insecurity, us the comparing ourselves to each other.
Then if you don't live up to those standards,
Yeah.
then you feel insufficient.
Yeah.
You feel as though you're lacking something. And so you look at that woman who in your mind possesses those attributes, and now you're deflecting those insecurities onto her.
Yeah.
I have a problem with the fact that I am not this way, and I hate the fact that she is.
That's
I
correct.
think that's an excellent point. I think that's an excellent point. I had this high flyer, this really high potential young executive that I was working with, and she was beautiful, really beautiful. And she'd come into the meetings, and the way that she would get attention, she was very intelligent, but she wouldn't use her intellect. She'd use her physicality. And I said to her, come into a meeting with you. I want to just walk you through a meeting. And we were negotiating with handsets, at the time mobile handsets. And she started to flash her eyes, and she wore a dress that showed her cleavage, and she was going like this, crossing her legs, and the guy was like, oh, hi, and speaking to her. She tried to kind of negotiate with him on something. He completely disregarded her. And then I came in and I started to speak, and then we got what we wanted. And afterwards I said to her, how do you think that went? She said, oh, it went really, really well. And, you know, he wants my phone number and everything. I said to her, what was the intention of that interaction? We were meant to be negotiating this, and she said yes. And I said, and did you get that? She said no. I said, so what did you do differently to what I did? And she said, well, Pat, you just spoke professionally to him. And I was like, you know, talking. And I said, so in future, I want you to stand back and be very professional with what you're doing, because he didn't respect you as a professional at all.
Yeah.
And she was like, how dare you say that about me, blah, blah, blah. And then afterwards she reflected it, and she came back and she said, you're absolutely right.
He didn't. And to be honest, I think that it's the settings. And
Yes.
we've also been taught, I think, that it doesn't hurt to be attractive.
Oh,
It will get your
absolutely
foot sometimes in the door, but it's not going to get
not
the
gonna
door to
keep you
stay
there.
open. It's not going
Yeah,
to keep the
it's not
door
gonna keep
open.
you there.
You know, but I absolutely agree with you. And I find sometimes I forget, right? So now in my new job, I forget, right? So I step in the room and they're like, and this is the PS. And they're like, this is the PS? And I'm like, yes. And then I forget, like, that I'm a woman and I'm an attractive,
woman.
Yes. And I'm stepping into the room thinking like everybody's just seeing my competence and my, you know, care for my, but really some of them are like, oh, look at this attractive woman.
They see first.
Yes.
That's what they
It's that
see.
imagery.
Yeah.
So then we feel like we have to really like, okay, no, you're going to see. So then we overdo it. You're going to see how smart I am. I'm going to oversmart you today. I'm going to outsmart you. I'm going to smart you till you're like, okay, this one's doing the most.
The most.
So I feel like sometimes we even overdo it
Yeah,
because
that's
we
true.
feel like we have
Yeah.
to
That's
prove
true.
it. But
Yeah.
I think that our societies, especially Caribbean societies, have encouraged us to do exactly as she was behaving.
Yes.
Yeah, to come into the room and to flirt and to laugh and to giggle. It's good, make everybody comfortable, but you also want people to see you
To respect you
and take you
professionally.
Respect you,
seriously and
absolutely.
respect you. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And respect your mind. I mean,
Agreed.
there's much more to us than what we look like. There's so much more substance there. But do you think that in some women's cases, they feel like they lack substance, and so they have to put that physicality on the forefront?
I think what you're saying is exactly accurate, that they just don't know they lack the substance. They just feel like they're missing something.
But it's like Pat said, that in the case
Right.
of your colleague,
Yeah.
she had that introspection.
Yes.
And a lot of women don't know how to do that.
The awareness.
They
Yes.
see you telling them something, or you simply trying to give them constructive criticism, and they take it as she thinks she's better than me. No, sister, I'm trying to help you.
Absolutely.
Because because
Absolutely.
number one, I
I did
see
read
the
this in your book,
potential.
by the way.
Yeah.
Number one, I see the potential in you, even if you don't see it in yourself yet. And sometimes we just need that person telling us, like, girl, you got this. Like, you can do this. You don't have to sell
Absolutely.
yourself short.
Absolutely. And I love stories, right? So my next story is, there was a country manager, she was a technical manager, and I put her in charge of a family island in one of the islands. And I said, you take control of everything, all the customers, the technology, the retail stores, everything, because I believe you can do it. Although you're technical, I believe you can do it, and I'll be here to mentor you. After a few months, I realized that, well, actually, she wasn't really doing the work. She was just like deferring back to technical and forgetting about the customer service and everything. And I started to get on and say, listen, you need to do this, you need to do that. Do you want me to come over? Went to visit her in the island and all the rest of it. She turned around one day and she said to me, I think you're a real bee. And she called me the B word.
Wow.
Right? And I looked at her and I said, and I think you're really lazy. I said, you're really lazy. You can do so much more, but you've got this sense of entitlement. And entitlement is only going to get you so far. You're going to lose your job if you don't step up. And you've got me here to kind of mentor you and show you the way. So anyway, I left and went into another job. And she called me up about, I don't know, 2 years later. And she said, Miss Walters, you know that song, that there's a place for people like you know, that kind of religious song. She said, I got down on my knees and I said, God, please forgive me for every bad thing I ever said about Miss Walters, because now I realize that she really had my best interests at heart, and she just wanted me to excel. And it's like, yes, that's all I ever wanted. It might have come across hard, tough love and all of that, but it's not because, you know, I'm trying to put you down. It's because I want you to be the best that you can be, and I know you can do it.
You know what? Some women have experienced such terrible things from at the hands of other women.
That's true.
It's
that
hard
it
for them
makes
to
it
trust
hard.
it.
Yes,
I think
they
you're
put up
right.
those
Yes,
emotional
yes,
walls. It makes it
yes.
hard for the women with
Correct.
good intentions
Correct.
to now step in and actually be present in their life and have an impact.
Correct.
And again, just that childhood and what we're being taught, what we're being exposed to, especially in school, in high school. Children can be very mean. And she can tell you as a teacher, as a former teacher.
They were mean.
Children can be very mean. And the more you, for example, myself, I was a singer in school.
I was thinking the example, but I was keeping it to myself. I'm glad
I
you bring
did
it up.
pageants. I did not necessarily ask after winning those pageants to have to sing the national anthem at an event, or to have to sing in assembly, or to have to be a part of something. It just kind of came with the title.
Yes.
But I was constantly being targeted. Oh, she likes to be up in things. Little did they know, I wasn't volunteering for a thing. I was simply being.
She was being voluntold.
I was being called upon, and simply just, I'm here to represent my school. I'm here to represent my country, and I'm proud to do it. And in a child's mind, I was constantly thinking, but why is this a bad thing? I'm doing this for all of us. Like, I thought I was making my school proud. I thought I was making my country proud.
Yes.
I'm not doing any of this for myself, because at the end of the day, whatever I garner from all of that, I want to put it back into my country. I want to put it back into my community. There is often this invisible war that women are fighting for other women that is not seen. And so there's this idea that we really don't have each other's backs. But there have been countless times where we've had to go hard defending other women, women who we've never even personally ever met. But because we're women, we understand the struggle, we understand the challenges, we can relate to what's being done or being said to keep that woman down. What have some of your experiences been with that? And have you ever found yourself in a place defending women?
Lots. Let me give you one. I like to give you from the extremes, but I've had lots. So, another job where I had 2 female deputy finance managers working for me. One was kind of very, like bold looking, kind of features, very masculine kind of, and the other one was light skinned, pretty, pretty, pretty. And my manager said to me, I want you to demote that one and give the other one the job. I said, on what basis? He said, because she's ugly.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
I said, but that's ridiculous. I said, I'm not doing that. I said, she's got the skills to do it. She can, but she's ugly. He said, look at this one and look how beautiful she is. And I said, I don't care. I said, the two of them are good at what they do. That one that you want to promote can be promoted into another role, but I am not demoting that one, the one that you want me to demote. Anyway, he asked for me to get moved, right? He wanted me to move because I wouldn't do his,
His bidding.
his bidding. And I had somebody protecting me that protected me. But I had a fight for that one just because of how she looked.
Yeah.
Just because she wasn't attractive to him. Can you imagine that nonsense?
I can't imagine.
And
I've
that
seen-
woman would never know.
She never knew.
That she was standing
That she
for
was fighting
her
for
like
She
that.
never knew.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe somebody could be so downright prejudiced and shallow to want to move someone just because you didn't like how they looked.
Somebody sent me actually a meme the other day, and it said that celebrate the women or celebrate the people who look out for you when you're not in the room.
Yes.
Right. I put it up because it was like, and I was thinking, yes, because when you're in the room, everybody's lovely. But when you're not in the room and people are talking about you,
Yeah.
then who is coming in to defend you?
And I think, again, it goes back to our childhoods because I saw my mother be very strong in many, many ways.
Yes.
But then when it came to defending herself among like surrounding women because she had less than them,
Yes.
I didn't see that. I saw my mother's vulnerable side.
Yes.
I saw that very scared, soft side. I saw that insecure side. And so I had a challenge growing up having to just overcome that because I took it the opposite.
Yes.
When I would hear people are talking about me or people said this, I would go right into, okay, what can I change? How can I make that better? How can I get this person to change their perception of me? And it took life and experiences and me finding myself
Yes.
to get to that point of, I can't change you. The only person I can change is me.
That's correct.
And after I've worked on myself, if that still is insufficient for you, then
I'm
oh well,
sorry.
so be it. Because I can't be anything more or less than this.
Yes.
And if this isn't good enough, then I'm sorry. Then you're just not supposed to be a part of my tribe.
It's not fair.
It's just not
We
there.
also have to learn to laugh at
Because
ourselves.
and it's the
too.
it affects people psychologically. They're scrolling through their phones on Instagram and on all these social media, and they're looking at themselves and they're comparing themselves to the other woman who's making it look so effortless and so easy. Sometimes with a lot of help that she's not sharing.
A lot of filters.
That she's not sharing.
Yeah.
You're not
But these
seeing.
little girls are looking at that and they're internalizing that. And it's not the substance, it's not the brains and the skills and those merits that are being displayed. It's this.
Yes.
It's the beauty. And when you don't look like her, and society's telling you that that's a standard that's acceptable, that's what we deem beautiful, then where do you put yourself?
But then I also wonder too about the standard, because if we think even historically, right? So the first woman, the Hottentot. So you had the Hottentot. The Hottentot had big, large breasts, big hips, right? And they had her like in a cage, like for people to look at her like a spectacle, you know? And now the Hottentot is like a hottie. Everybody wants to be the Hottentot. Women that aren't even of color now are putting in their breasts. They have BBLs. They have. So for us, I think if we were more analytical, so like this, everybody aspires to be this thing, but it's always shifting and changing. And I wish that we did more work to help our young people understand, like, you are as beautiful. Nobody defined you. For me, I say to people, God tells me who I am. You don't tell me who I am. You don't define what my gifts are, how beautiful you think I am. But I'm an adult having experienced a lot in life to come to this place. But for young people, they don't have anything to compare it to. And when they look in their communities and on the social media and even among their friends, and they're being compared every day to somebody else, it really does start to break and chip away and create that insecurity, which then in turn feeds into this competitiveness.
Because they have
And
no
I think-
reference.
A reference point,
And I think, we have an obligation even if it's one person, one young girl, one child, to make a difference. And so I was at a restaurant once, and there was a young girl, she must have been about 7 or 8, and she had her hair out of plaits, and she was running, and I said, "What's wrong?" She said, "My hair looks really horrible. I want it, pressed and relaxed." I said, "Why?" She said, "Because this is just like a nappy hair." And I'm like, "Okay, come here, I want to show you something." And I just received a video of somebody who had her hair out in an afro, and she was shaking it like this and in different things, and it was a beautiful video. And I said, "Look at this." I said, "That looks so much like you. Don't you think she's beautiful?" And she just gave me this massive hug, and she said, "Thank you." Because it just needs sometimes somebody to show you that, that is, you're beautiful. You don't need to be like these images, but then that goes after a while, and it needs to be reinforced. And so you need to have those reinforcements around.
Yes, that's
where
support
people
system.
genuinely think, don't put a filter on, you don't need to do this, you don't need to be false. You're beautiful.
Yeah.
It's like Naeemah said, it's those affirmations.
Yes.
Not just the ones that we expect from others, but the ones that we put on ourselves.
Correct.
Being able to look into the mirror and say, I'm enough.
I'm enough.
But it goes back. It goes, like you talk about the Hottentot, and I often tell young girls, go back to the story of like Sarah Bartman, who, and study that story, because there are no guns to our heads today, literally speaking. There's no shackles around our feet. No one's forcing us to exploit ourselves or overexpose ourselves. So we have to start understanding
But it's
and be
there.
honest about why we're doing
Why
the
we're
things
doing
that
it.
we're doing.
So why do you think right now we just seem to like spiral down into the way that we present ourselves as women? And I'm not saying us here, but if you look at social media, you look at the fets, you look at what people are videoing and sharing, it's like it's just spiraling down.
I don't think it's spiraling any more than it was before, except that people are more exposed.
Yes,
Okay.
because of social media.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think people are more exposed, and we're getting a lot more of our meaning externally than internally. It used to be at home, and even at home was a problem, because sometimes the place where you get the most negative feedback is at
It's
home.
it's
When
from
your mother
family
says, "Oh,
and
you look
friends.
just like your father," or "Girl, why you not cute like your sister-in-law? Your pretty sister brought me home a phone. What you bringing me home?" And all kinds of these kinds of messaging. So a lot of the times, if the people that really are supposed to care about you and love you make you feel badly about yourself, you're going to go out either and seek it somewhere else externally, because you're not getting it internally. Or
Yeah, I
in
think
your
that's
home.
very true.
For years, I remember I turned it into a joke simply to kind of make it less of a mockery or less of an insult. It's one of those, it's weird, it's psychological.
We do
It's
it all
like,
the time as women.
before you throw it on me, let me just pour the dirt on myself first, so you have nothing to throw on me. But I remember makeup artists would be working on me, and I would be joking. I'd say, I know my face isn't that soft. I've got like a hard-shaped face. But it's because as a child, I was constantly being told, your face is hard like your mother's.
Oh, wow.
And that was something that stayed with me. Well, now I'm like, what do you think about my soft face now?
Yeah.
but that's God. But these are the things that stay with you
Yeah.
as children. And you grow up with this idea of what you're putting out there, even if the world is looking at you differently, even if other women are looking at you like, but you're beautiful. And they think you're so confident, and behind closed doors, you're picking yourself apart until there's absolutely nothing left, and you just feel like it's time to give up. And I'm tired of seeing so many women give up because of that.
I think that one of the things that we also neglect to look at is the absence of healthy relationships with men, because that is something that also forms, especially as young girls, your self-concept of yourself. So if you didn't have a male figure in your home that was there to support you, now I'm actually amazed, even through COVID, I see so many fathers with their daughters. I don't remember that growing up, seeing a lot of fathers with their daughters, but that's where you get your first notion of who you are as a person. If your father is not present, you start to think, really, like we were talking about, why is he not here? Was I not important enough? Did he not love me enough? Am I not good enough? That first feeling of rejection. And we start to seek it, and when you're seeking it, in the wrong places, just trying to get a little bit of attention. I remember when I worked with teen moms, they'd say, oh, this is the first man who told me I was beautiful. And so I went with him unprotected and I got pregnant. People say that happens. Like, of course, if nobody's never told you that you're beautiful, the first person that tells you, you're going to go with. So I think there's also responsibility outside of women, also for men, to see how much they form how we see ourselves. Because then they come around and say, oh, that woman's so insecure. But it's like, remember, you've been with this woman for 10 years. You've been cheating on her for 9. Like, you would be insecure too, because she's thinking, well, what don't I have? And it's really not even that. I think we think as women, even in infidelity, we think as women, oh, what didn't I have that she has? But it's not. He just wanted something else that day. Like,
or something different.
It's something different. It has nothing to do with you as a woman. And then as women, the competitiveness goes against other women. Oh, and she's my enemy because we are, girl.
Because now we're competing for the same love interest.
Yes.
Yeah.
But didn't he promise you fidelity? Didn't he say he would love you and he would care for you and he would take care of you? Is this taking care of you? Is this loving you? It's not. So why are you fighting with her? You and her have the same problem. Get rid of the problem, you know? So I think a lot of the times the competitive comes from this false idea and these perceptions that we have, these $3 bills that we have that make us think that we're competing with someone or for something, or we want our meaning from this person or from that thing. And I think we do really need to do much more work as women on ourselves and helping other young women see themselves.
Do you think that another way that men contribute to perpetuating this is the way they talk about one woman to another woman?
Yes, and how they talk about women to other men.
Yes.
I guess because I will speak out about it, I don't really hear those conversations much. Because I can't sit there and have men talk about other women in any kind of derogatory way. I will not stand for
But
it.
some women,
but
some
also remember
women
too.
No, I know, but I'm
Yes,
just saying.
they do.
I'm just.
And it starts young. I have boys, right?
Yeah.
My sons are 16 and 23. My older son, he's not so much. He's a lot shy. My younger son, he's engaged. He wants to talk. He wants to see everything, talk about everything. And sometimes I'll say, like, why are you calling that woman that? And he'll say, Mommy, some girls, they're just like that because they go with lots of boys, or they have all kind of women. They got man, and they have a side man and a side man, Mommy. That's a this. You know, and I'm like, but what about the man? Like, he's got a side woman and a side woman and a side woman. And he said, well, she's the same. I said, but you don't call her that. Yeah. And the meaning is not the same. If a man is promiscuous, it doesn't have the same value as a woman who's being promiscuous. So when you attach a derogatory name, it adds something and it makes that woman feel that way. You're almost reinforcing something. But what is she doing that was any different than what the men are doing? And, you know, oh, okay. But if we don't challenge the thinking, we have to be courageous and we have to challenge these things when we hear men in bars or buses or your job or your home.
You say something.
We have to speak up and say something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But and I like that
women
have that
participate
conversation with
in
your
that.
son.
Oh, for sure. I also encourage my sons to have girlfriends, girls that are your friends. And you have to know the distinction between a girl who's your friend and a girlfriend. You cannot sexualize your girl who is a friend. You can't say to your friend, oh, your booty looks good today, because she's your friend. And she doesn't say, oh, I love the way your balls are hanging. You know what I'm saying?
It's easy to say that. I mean, yes, men have some responsibility to share for sure. But I find that women tend to also be the ones who perpetrate that. We put those labels on each other.
Absolutely.
We've even normalized it to where I will hear young women greeting each other as the B word and a bunch of other derogatory words. They're fighting, they're vying for these titles of bad this and boss this. I'm like, why would I want to be a bad bitch or a boss bitch when I could simply be a lady?
Yes.
I mean, we're vying for these titles that are putting these labels on us, these derogatory labels. And we're glamorizing them.
Absolutely.
We've glamorized them.
And it's glamorized everywhere.
Children
social media,
are seeing
on
this.
videos,
Exactly.
everywhere. It's glamorized.
I think it's like almost along the lines of when we laugh when men make us uncomfortable. You know, like when you're in a situation and a man flirts with you or he's sexually inappropriate and we laugh because we're uncomfortable. We do. We do it. I don't know a lot of women who don't do it. I agree you don't.
No. I went to a conference and it was a regulatory conference and I introduced myself as I said, I'm the regulatory accountant. The high-ranking official turned to me and said, gosh, I would like to regulate you.
Now that's not appropriate.
Well, exactly. So I ain't gonna laugh at that, and I just went, "Excuse
No,
me."
no.
And then he went, "Oh, I'm sorry." No, don't laugh at it.
That's
It's
not normal,
funny.
but there are ways that it is normalized in our culture. So, like, girl, like, oh, wow, you look nice today. Oh, your hips growing, eh? In St. Kitts, we love, oh, your hips growing, eh?
And some
It's
of
why
that could be categorized as body shaming.
and it's body
Yes.
shaming, and we'll
Yeah.
laugh. Oh, you're getting a little weight. You're looking fuller. Oh, you must have. Oh, your man must be taking. Because you don't like. What do I say to that? You really want to say what you're really thinking, but I think as women, one of our natural responses when we're uncomfortable is to kind of laugh it and play it off so that we can feel safer in the space.
Yes. Well, there's clearly a problem. What do we do as women about this problem? We see the problem. We live with the symptoms every day. Now, how do we go about rectifying this? We're coping with it in all of these weird ways. Women are inundating themselves with social media. Some of them are just denying the fact that the problem even exists. And then when you pose the question, then why are all of your friends male? And why are you proud to say I have no female friends? I mean,
Yeah,
you
that's a good
can't,
point.
it can't be
Yes,
both
yes,
ways.
yes.
It's either we can get along or we can't. But some of them are in such denial, and then there are those who just go, women are just like this, forgetting that they're a woman too.
Yes.
Women are just like this. I can't deal with them, and so I just leave them there and leave them to themselves. We need to change that. Yes. We need to start migrating from this place of rivalry and competition to a place of sisterhood. That's what's lacking in our society, a genuine concept and reality of sisterhood, because it's possible.
Interestingly enough, I'm chair of an organization called CWIL, SKM, the Caribbean Institute for Women in Leadership. And we're actually an organization of women from different political parties, which, you know, is almost like unheard of in St. Kitts and Nevis. And why that organization works is that we came to understand that we need each other. Yes. And what brings us together is more than what separates us.
Yes.
And every woman just wants to be felt and heard and affirmed and supported. And so it's almost like each one of us reach out to another woman and we try to see the things that we have in common. These are challenges. If we're working these agendas, usually they're not even our agendas. So why are we not working together? There's room for all of us. And look how good it feels when you lift up this woman and she does well. Let's celebrate her success. Oh, let's see what this woman's interested in. Let's celebrate her success. Oh, this woman she has an event coming up. We're all going to her event. Yeah. Let's celebrate her success. And we just have to start shifting the narrative one woman at a time.
One woman at a time.
I think that's it. It's one woman at a time.
Yeah.
I think that's absolutely it.
And like you said, there's room for all of us.
All of us.
And at the same time, I mean, we definitely need to recognize that within the problem, there's nothing wrong with holding each other accountable.
Yes,
because a part of being sisters, you argue with your real sisters all the time, but there's this love there. Yeah. And that's what we're missing, that ingredient, that love thing. We're missing that for each other. And it's...
And it's only trust as well, because it might be there, but they might not trust that it's genuine. And so it is, you know, just keep on trusting, keep on helping, keep on supporting, keep on enabling, keep on nurturing until that trust is, oh my gosh, actually sincere.
So we simply have to start being the types of women that we want other women to be toward us.
You want to see in the world.
Yes.
Exactly. It really does come down to that.
Because it's not going to work the first time. Sometimes you're going to be very kind and a woman's going to be very catty.
Yes.
You still have to get up the next day and start with new grace.
Yeah.
I say every day I wake up with this. So how's your day yesterday? It was tough, but tomorrow I'm going to wake up with new grace, new mercy.
I say that too.
I'm going to start every day fresh.
Just because you're on a journey of bettering yourself, it doesn't mean that you're perfect tomorrow.
Absolutely.
It's a process.
Yes.
Some days I wake up and I go, today's going to be beautiful, and today I'm going to have, you know, great experiences and great interactions. And by midday, I'm telling somebody to go to hell.
Yes.
I mean, it's life.
It's life.
It's life.
You have to just start again. It's like, okay, today wasn't the best day, but tomorrow I'm going to try again. That's all we could do.
What would you say to all women, Patricia, if you had one thing to say on this topic of competition?
We're all destined for greatness, and you don't have to trample somebody else to fulfill your own destiny. So just reach back and pull someone up and help them.
Beautiful. I could not have said it better. Thank you, ladies, so much for being here today. It has been absolutely wonderful. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
for
you.
having me. This was the highlight of my day. I won't lie. And I finally got to spend some time with my friend. I miss him so much.
When she walked in, I was like, who is that Amazonian? Whether it's self-promotion tactics, competitor derogation, or any other means of getting ahead, it's clear that women compete with women for things that, in the grand scheme of things, don't really matter. Thankfully, this new generation is coming into its own and recognizing that you get farther together. I'll leave you with this. Be that kind of girl who smiles when you walk past other girls, instead of casting a dirty look. We'd love to hear from you, so hit us up on our social accounts right here to join in. And remember that when you know better, you do better. Catch you next time.